So what we're gonna do is I just want to make a series of stained glass window pieces for a module that is somewhat conceptually similar to the shape of this this arch piece, but is a straight across surface. So I'm actually going to do that by cheating a little bit. And I'm actually going to take this arch piece and I'm going to use it as an example. So I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to drag out a copy of this arch. I'm not going to make it an instance. I want it to be a copy. And I'm going to call this Windows High. Or actually, I'm going to call this Windows Middle. I think it's Windows Middle. And I actually want it to be a different color because I think it's going to be easier to manage that way. So if you in Maya you don't really do this, but Max has these kind of debug colors that help you see what objects are the same. I'm going to click next to the name here, and I can find a color that works for this. I guess I'm going to pick like kind of a red color. I think that would be fine. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly isolate this piece. And first of all, I'm going to grab all these arch sections. And actually, you know what? I'm going to do this a super easy way. I'm going to select each of these edges along the front. I'm going to select an edge ring. I'm sorry, an edge loop, which you can do by double-clicking. You can do the same thing in Maya. You can double-click, and then you can shift double-click, or you can do that here. You can also, in Maya, you can do the right-click menu. I think it's the control right-click menu. And then you can bring up, you can select two-edge loop, and it'll get you there. And then what I'm just going to do is I'm going to hold down Control Backspace, and that's going to delete all of this. And in Maya, you would right-click. You'd I think a shift right-click and select Delete Edge would be the easiest way to do it. Or you can do Backspace, and I think you can actually do Control Backspace in Maya too. I'm not. Or no. I'm sorry. Actually, in Maya, the easiest one would be to use the Delete key. Okay, so now I've got this this window section, and it's still got the kind of like trim piece that I had before. But I want to add a trim to the bottom, and I'm not totally happy with where I would have to put that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a selection across the span of the middle here, and I'm going to select the Connect tool, and I'm going to hit that there. And then I'm going to switch to Vertex. I'm going to grab those. And you can do the same thing in Maya, but I'm going to type an explicit value here because I know where I want them to be placed. So if I click on all these verts here, they're at 12. So that means that I want these to be at 14, and then the very top of this is going to be at 16. So these, I literally can just type in 14, which I know is exactly in the middle. Then I'm going to unselect that, and I'm actually going to do a quick little hack to make a trim on the other side. I'm going to go to select face, grab all the bottom faces. I'm going to delete that face. I'm going to quickly adjust the pivot so that it's at the middle section. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to create a symmetry. Now, this is an option in Maya as well. I think it's called mesh mirror geometry in Maya. But here it's called symmetry, and it's a modifier. So I'm going to do a symmetry along the z-axis, and that will actually create an exact duplicate there of the top on the bottom, so I don't have to do any additional work. Then I can go ahead and I can just collapse this. And then because I don't actually need those faces anymore, I can just delete the edge in the middle. And so that was kind of a shortcut for me to get this kind of shape of a piece without having to take much hassle to do it. So that's cool, but I still have to make the arch shapes for the windows in the middle, and there's two of those. And there's a few ways that I could do that. One way, and I think that this is probably the way that I'm going to opt for, is I just can make rough cuts, and then I can kind of like define the shape that way, and then we can stick kind of like a panel for the glass sections with like a double-sided plane. So so I'm going to go ahead and again, because this is a block in, it's going to be a little bit simpler than the final version would be. So I've got these window pieces. I'm actually going to probably pinch it out, in this case about 20. And then I'm going to select the cross direction. I'm going to use only one. And I'm going to slide it up. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do two. And I'm going to pinch them closer together. And then I'll slide them up that way. So we'll have that working out there. Yeah, I think that's probably okay. Okay, and so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab both of these edges here. I'm going to select the loop, and then I'm going to go and use chamfer. In Maya, you can use bevel, so bevel works basically the same way. But so what this does is it basically splits things up. So now I can get a section here that will work for my window piece. And then I can add segments to it. Now, in the long run, I'm going to want to optimize this so that I don't have all of these shapes extending through each other, because there's no purpose of having a lot of these edges. So in the long run, I'm going to end up optimizing a lot of this stuff out. And we'll make a final low poly, but we're not quite at that stage yet. So I'm just not going to worry about that too much. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a small set, a small connect here. And I'm trying to make this pretty simple, but oops. So I'm just going to connect these 3 edges at the top on each side. Connect. And then I'm going to connect each of the corners. And I think you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I'm getting kind of an arched shape. So I'm going to grab all of these edges here, or all of these verts. I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm going to drag out the middle section. I'm going to drag this down a tiny bit. Oops, and I want to make sure that I keep the all of the edges selected, so I'm hold control to add to that. Drag it out so it looks a little bit smoother. Then I'm going to hold down Alt, unselect these two verts here. And then I'm going to drag it even further down. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to scale in. I got to turn off my snapping. There we go. I'm going to scale this in a tiny bit. And I'm just doing this by eye. I'd probably be a little bit more precise with a final asset. But that just gives me so that I have a proper kind of recess there. And then, yeah, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these faces. And I'm going to extrude, I'm going to extrude them in a little bit. So I have that like that. And so right now I'm making the assumption that these window pieces do not have transparent glass in them. Now, if you did have transparent glass, you'd actually want this hole to go all the way through, and then you'd want to put single-sided or double-sided material on the window. For right now, I'm not going to worry about that because, again, we're blocking it in. But then also it'll help us get a better idea of what we're working with here. So, okay. So then now what I need to do is I need to essentially just I got to make sure I affect my pivot so I get it back down to where I need it to be. Since after I did my symmetry, I don't have the correct pivot anymore. Okay. And so then I can just go through. And I'm going to make instances of each of these. Now, as far as making instances in Maya, you can make instances by using a duplicate special operation. And you can make sure that the instances are something that you're storing by, like, if you go to the duplicate special options box, you just select instance, I think, instead of object. And then you can hit Control-Shift-D instead of Control-D, and that'll duplicate special, and it'll basically work the same as a duplicate. So, there we go. So I'm dragging these pieces out. And then I also want to make sure that I'm doing my negative scale where I need to. And then I can also drag two at a time. I can grab both of these, or drag all of these rather. And I can snap them here. Oops, yeah. And then I can just make sure that I've got the negative scale on each of these to get them. I think it's still negative X. Yeah. Oops. Something went horribly wrong. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to drag out this copy here. Okay, let's quickly jump into my other camera. I'm going to take a look at it. Okay, so it's starting to come along. It's obviously not done yet.